Joe. He'll walk you through the concepts on the go. If there's any device you've got, see the show. Cowboy Joe. Cowboy Joe.
Hey folks, how are ya? This is Cowboy Joe here with a recapitulation of section 2.10. Picture in motion. How did it all begin? Well, it started with this apple falling on this guy's head named Newton, and he started the discussion many years ago. Some people actually think physics would have been a lot easier if the tree would have landed on Newton and not the apple. But anyhow, let's start. Your goal for today is to define vectors and scalars and to draw motion diagrams and particle models to describe motion. All right, so vectors and scalars. Vectors are talking about quantities that have both size and direction. So if you can think of something that's measured that needs both how big and a direction, then we can represent it with a vector. And vectors are represented by arrows. I'll show you that in a minute. And if it's only one dimension, such as like distance, how far you go, or time, how long maybe you can hold your breath or something, then that is considered a scalar. Temperature is a scalar as well. So these are arrows that we use to represent vectors. Now again, vectors are used to and contain two quantities. So let me go over a couple questions here to maybe help you see the two quantities that are contained within an arrow. So first of all, how are these two arrows similar? They both appear to be different lengths, but pointing in the same direction. So these two have the same direction. So that's one thing that an arrow can do. We can spin it like a top 360 degrees and determine which one of those 360 degrees that maybe you're traveling or a force is applied or the acceleration is applied. Now, if you consider these two, they do appear to have the same length. Those two arrows look like they have the same length, but definitely different directions. So if they have the same length, that's the same magnitude, that's the other component. So you can measure the length, which corresponds to the size of the movement. For example, if the vector represents displacement, or it could be the size of the force. A smaller length arrow would represent a smaller force. A bigger length arrow would be a bigger force. So now vectors can be put together and lined up like you see in that picture, but we got to associate the two characteristics of an arrow, of a vector. One is magnitude and refers to the length of the arrow, and the direction refers to what degrees it is. And we are going to assume that 0 is to the right on the monitor, and away from you would be 90 degrees or up, and then to the left is 180 degrees, and towards you or down would be 270, and all those little numbers in between 0 and 90 apply as well. For example, we'd use this little device right here to measure the angle. So let's look at an example, see if you can measure the two characteristics of an arrow. So first one, we need to bring in a ruler and measure the length. So let's say for this one, the length is 4.60 centimeters. Well, what direction is it? Orienting it so that to the right is 0, or east, we can see that it is about 24 degrees. So 24 degrees would be, well, we got to know what this vector represents. If this vector represents distance or displacement, then 1 centimeter represents a mile, and this 4.6 centimeters could be 4.6 miles at 24 degrees north of the east line. So figure out which way east is, go 24 degrees more, travel a mile for every centimeter, 4.6 miles total, and we'd get to the destination. We could do the same thing for another vector. This one is about 6.20 centimeters long, and it is pointed at 128 degrees. So from the east, you can measure 128 degrees. And, well, what does this represent? And this one's representing meters per second, so that's a speed. So we're traveling at 128 degrees. We are traveling in between, well, north and west. We are traveling between north and west at 6.20 centimeters. Each centimeter is a meter per second. So 6.20 meters per second, we might be getting a nice little jog going at that speed at 128 degrees. All right, so let's continue our discussion here. We got another one that's about 7.40 centimeters long, and it is pointed in between east and south at 300 and what is that, about 12 degrees. So this one is going to represent a force. So we're applying a force on an object. 1 centimeter is a Newton. The scale would change depending on who draws the vector. 7.40 centimeters, which would be newtons, so 7.40 newtons of force we're applying at that angle, at that direction. So the big thing here is we got to try to figure out what quantities are scalars and what are vectors. So you can see at the top of our list, speed and velocity. They both are measurements in meter per second, and velocity contains the direction that the object is traveling. Just like down in the middle, we see distance and displacement. They both are quantities measured in meters, but displacement contains the direction as well. So that would be how they are related. What else can we talk about on this list? Density is defined to be mass over volume, and if mass and volume are both scalar, then density would be scalar. And energy, there's a lot of different formulas for energy. Kinetic energy would be 1/2 mv squared, mass times velocity squared. Mass is a scalar, velocity is a vector, so that product would produce a vector. All right, so like I said, these arrows, these vectors can represent, for example, if you had to go to the store and then go to your aunt's house, well, when you're done with that travel, you got 5 miles to the store and 2 more miles to your aunt's house. How far are you away from where you began? Well, this is called vector addition. Adding vectors, you just stack up the arrows, tip to tail, they call the one end of the arrow the tip. The tip is found where the arrowhead is, and the tail is at the other end. So tip to tail, you stack them up, and then you draw a line from the beginning to the end. And if we did that with one-dimensional addition, we would draw a line right over top. So we drop down a little bit for one-dimensional vector addition. So the resultant is defined to be the sum of the two vectors. Now subtracting again, if we went one way and then backtracked, we would be going right over the same vector and we'd lose some identity of the length of that vector by coming back on it. So if you subtract and they're on the same axes, the same line, then just step down a little bit. So if we subtract, we can step down a little bit. And then the question still is, how far are you away from where you began? And that would be the resultant vector. Switching gears here now, we could look at picturing motion. So if we're trying to describe motion, what two things are needed? Well, we got to answer the questions where and when. Where is like a distance, so we need some kind of scale to represent distance, and when would be a time. So if we took a picture of a guy walking in the back of a gym, 5 different pictures, and superimpose those pictures all together, we would create what we're going to call a motion diagram. But in order for this to give us the information we need a scale. So that scale could be drawn in there. Maybe you know how far it is across the back of the gym. And if you know how far it is across the back of the gym from maybe one line to the next on that blue padding, Maybe that's a meter, and we can scale this up, and then we can get our distances from that. And then also, if we took those pictures at 1 second intervals, then we know some more information about the time. So the points at which both variables, the distance and time, are zero is what we call the origin. But this location of the 0 point and the direction in which the values of the variable increase, that distance variable, is what we call a coordinate system. And this is a motion diagram. A motion diagram includes the coordinate system, the origin, and an image of what's moving. So only one thing needs to be moving in these motion diagrams, and the background stays constant. And if we replace the image with a dot, we have something a little more simplified called a particle model. So we're going to use a particle model and draw some vectors on it to help us describe some motion. So this vector that I have pictured here is drawn from the origin. We call that a position vector. So this first dot was at time 0 equals 0. The second dot would be when it was 1 second later, 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later. So at the end of the third time interval, we have this position vector, and we can measure that length and the direction to identify the two parts of that vector. So that would be the end of the third time interval. And if we put two vectors on there, then two position vectors on there, we can actually mess around with vector addition with those two things. And we can find the difference in those two, the difference in position. So to find the difference in position, we draw the second vectors first. The vector that's farther away would be the one that came second. And then to subtract, all we're doing is continuing at the end of where we drew the first one, drop down a little bit, we are subtracting. The difference means minus. In order to minus an arrow, all we do is flip the arrowhead to the other side. Flip the arrowhead to the other side, draw it the same length. And that distance from where we started to where we ended up in our drawing is called a displacement. So our resultant vector for the subtraction of two position vectors is called displacement. Now displacement is defined to be delta D. That delta is your change in position. The df in that formula is called your final position minus do. O, that subscript O for original, is your original position. So when you subtract the final position minus the original position, we find the displacement, coded as delta D. Delta is that triangle. And we could look at the time interval the same way. Our time interval is going to be our final time minus the original time. So we're looking at the end of the third time interval minus the end of the first time interval. And if there are seconds, 3 seconds, end of the third second minus the end of the first second, we got this displacement happened in 2 seconds. And we can actually measure that 7 minus, I don't know, it looks like almost 7 minus 2.5. We get, what, 4.5. So it could be 4.5 meters, about, just approximately, over, and we can do more work with that later. If we divided them, we would get something else, but we'll talk about that later. But anyhow, that is the difference between those two lengths. If we just went with the scalar, we would use the word distance, which is the length of any one of these vectors. And we could do this same kind of analysis for all kinds of different position vectors. This one's from the fourth to the first. So the change in position, the displacement from the fourth to the first time interval would be noted on that one. And this is the fourth to the second. Second is a little bit longer, would be a little bit shorter resultant, so the displacement. But anyhow, that is all I have for today. So we talked about vectors and scalars. Remember, vectors are quantities that have both magnitude and direction. Scalars are just magnitude. Direction doesn't matter. And we talked about how to create a motion diagram and a particle model. So try some of this in Moodle section 2.10.
Cowboy Joe, Cowboy Joe.